All right, I just promoted it again.
All right, folks, we are live. Hello,
We are
everyone.
live.
Yes, sir.
Are we live? Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Hello, whether you're watching us live or coming at us from video. My name is Payhuan Shiao. I'm the founder and CEO of Immortal Studios, and it's my distinct honor to welcome to this global stage my very good friend Shifu Yan Tuo from the Shaolin Temple. Before we actually get into this dialogue with Yan Tuo, who I'll call him Yan Tuo. You may want to call him Master Yan Tuo or Shifu Yan Tuo, but as we are friends, I am going to call him by his Dharma name. Before we get into the meat of this conversation, I think it's important just to kind of lay the groundwork, so to speak. You know, I understand that this title, "How Can Shaolin Save the World?" is really a provocative question. I think the concept of saving the world is something that we're all feeling this very time. I don't care what your political affiliation is, the issues that you monitor, your age, your gender, your orientation, your cultural background. When you look at the global landscape from our homes, our environments, you know, whether we've been impacted by something, whether our family have been impacted by something we know, our employers, our city. And I think it's true everywhere. This kind of uncertainty, this kind of fear, this kind of feeling of anxiety, like where is our world going? What is really happening here? Where can I find peace? You know, and sometimes these problems that we're all feeling is so big, it's so confusing that we're like, wow, this world really needs to be, you know, we need to make a big, big difference. I'm just one person here standing in my life doing what I do. What can I do? So I think this is I hope at least this is certainly how I'm feeling in my part of the world and where we come from. So the idea of Shaolin, I think Shaolin is not a stranger to anyone here. I think on this live stream today, there are a lot of Kung Fu practitioners, students of the Shaolin Temple, and or people who are curious about Shaolin, whether you're a martial artist or you're interested in Chan philosophy, Zen philosophy, or Buddhism, or that you're just faintly aware of the concept of Shaolin. So whenever Shaolin comes up, I think for the average Westerner, someone in the West, you think about David Carradine from Kung Fu. You think about the movies. You think about the influences, maybe you know about The Last Airbender, Avatar. You think about maybe you practice Kung Fu. So the idea of this enlightened Shaolin monk who's powerful, mysterious, very, very calm, but really knows how to take care of business. I think that kind of icon is alive in everybody's minds and imaginations, and with it, a lot of pageantry, a lot of hopes and aspirations, a lot of curiosity, and a lot of confidence and faith. But we don't really know what that means for everybody else. Maybe if you learn Kung Fu, you could be a great fighter. But what many people don't know is that Shaolin is actually the birthplace of what in the West is now known as Zen. It's known as Chan Buddhism. It traveled from first, it was carried, the ethos of it was carried to China from India through Bodhidharma, and it landed and melded with Chinese culture, became Chan Buddhism, and then it traveled to India, known as Zen, and then so Zen became popularized. A lot of people don't know that before Shaolin was about martial arts and Kung Fu, was really about philosophy, was about spirituality, was about a depth of meditation. So getting to this topic at hand, it's for this reason why that, you know, and Shaolin has existed in 1,500 years. It's been a topic of conversation for generations and generations and millennia. So I'm really proud to be joined. And thank you for putting up with this really long-winded way of setting it up, this conversation. So how can Shaolin save the world? Before we get into that really big conversation, I want to welcome you again, Yan Tuo, to this dialogue. I know we occasionally will pick up the phone and shoot and just have a really beautiful dialogue. And one of the things I really admire about you, even as a master warrior monk, I think you really have been, in some ways, even more committed to your spiritual practice. And it's really something that I see that you live in your life, the things that you do, the practices that you take. So I just want to, how did you get started? Tell everybody here a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah. First, I want to say thank you, my friend Peter, and then
Hey, Juan.
and then Juan, yes, and for having me on this special live stream, and also I really feel it's such a big honor for me to be here to talk about my background, my understanding, my little bit of experience of Shaolin to everyone. Shifu Yan Tuo is my Shaolin Buddhist name. So my real name is Wang Lu. Last name is Wang, and first name is Lu. I was born in small village in Shandong province, and then.
Where in Shandong province?
Actually, the small town. It's not a big city. It's called Caoxian. A long time ago, it's called Caozhou. So now it's called Caoxian. So like like a small city. Yeah.
Here I want to say that Caozhou is actually where the major dream master of the Immortal Storyverse, Fa Sheng, also comes from. So it's kind of interesting.
Your honor, yes.
That the dream master of the Immortal Storyverse, who is also a Shaolin warrior monk, you and this dream master actually have this common. So it's very auspicious. As we are in the middle of our Kickstarter publication for this chapter, to have you with us. I'm sorry I interrupted you. So you are from Caozhou.
Yes, Caoxian. Yeah. And then small village, and I started practicing kung fu with my father when I was like 5-6 years old in a small village. Nobody pushed me. I was just very interested doing the martial arts. It was more like a traditional local style, and I was doing that for a couple of years. And then we had some other teachers that came to our small village once in a while to teach us. And at the same time, my father and their generation people from the village also, they are teaching little ones too.
So this is an important thing. There's a martial spirit in this part of China, right? So the practice of kung fu is something that a lot of people did.
Yes,
it's almost like
it's
like
a
a
big
lineage, right?
Yeah, that was a thing. Yes.
Is it still that way?
No.
The martial spirit is very strong in this part of China, right? But the martial spirit is very strong, just like you described. In a smaller village, people are practicing. You're learning from your father. There's a lineage of kung fu.
Yes, that's a tradition. Yes. Like our hometown, like where you from? Where I'm from.
It's also where my grandfather's from.
Oh, okay.
In that same part of the world. Yes.
Yes, it's called Wushu Zhixiang, the town of kung fu, and it was famous in Shandong Caozhou area. And the question you asked me, actually, now it's very popular in China to do kung fu or other martial arts, other style of kung fu. But what I feel the difference is when I started learning kung fu, our parents or the expectation from our parents on us, I think they were hoping that we can have a good life and a good future. So you practice kung fu that people.
Why the practice of kung fu can give you a good life and a good future?
Just kind of more like a traditional way that you know a skill with a kung fu skill, and they were hoping you to do something different than in a small village. Just very like simple, not special job there. Just be a farm or to go to school, and just they will help me or other kids can do something outside the hometown, do something different.
So this is like a foundation. It's a foundational skill set that will give you more opportunities. Why is that? Why can the practice of kung fu bring that, you think? As a practitioner now for decades.
Yeah, I think in 100 years ago before, since the many generations, the kung fu, it's not about training for have a healthy life or exercise your body. It is to have a skill to save your life, I would say. So when you have very good kung fu skill, you are safe.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a better job. You can have a better life.
Mm-hmm.
You can protect yourself everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the very traditional way that from a long time ago, 1,000 years ago.
Self-defense.
Not only
when there's no guns,
that's very basic.
right?
Basic
When there's no guns, nothing. This is like
right. That's all about your skill from
Yeah.
kung fu training. So, and then when you have very good skill with you everywhere you go, you will have better life or better job. You can be, could be anything, could be anyone that maybe work for governor's family and protect them, teach their children. For example, maybe you have a disabled people come to learn from you, and then you can have many disciples teaching.
Right.
And so because your skill are very high, you were very good with your kung fu skill. Those are very traditional views from our parents, expectations from our parents. So when they were helping us can have that kind of life with our kung fu skill to create a good future and a good life. And nowadays, you send the kids to learn kung fu or other style of martial arts. It's not to have use your skill, kung fu skill to have better life. It's to just simply to exercise or self-defense, because nowadays we don't need use our kung fu to fight with people everywhere we go. And then we don't need a kung fu to keep ourselves safe. We don't need a kung fu to find our job.
I want to add something here, Yan Tuo, which is something I've been thinking about, because I think the usefulness of kung fu changes from generation to generation, as you described.
Yes,
right?
It does.
But during our generation, this lifetime, I think we're all being displaced or impacted by technology, whether spending too much time on the cell phone.
It's true.
Which is really changing our neurochemistry.
Yes.
Spending lots of time in front of the screen, because this is now our new livelihood. We're not moving around. Now with artificial intelligence, that can actually do a lot of the traditional tasks. We don't even have to think as much. We don't even have to do as much. We don't have to struggle as much. So in some ways, our bodies, minds, and our unique capabilities are atrophying. Our abilities are decreasing. So the question is like, what kind of practice can we bring into our lives to help bolster us? When our lifestyles are really being almost deteriorated by new digital lifestyles. So I would say that we have now found a new wave of new relevance for Kung Fu, especially Shaolin Kung Fu. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I want to go back to your story. So your father trained you. You came from this small town in China where the martial spirit is strong. You started practicing. I imagine you must have been pretty good. Otherwise, you would not have been eventually attracted to the Shaolin Temple. I know how difficult it is to join the temple.
Actually, it's a little bit quite the opposite. Actually, when I was little, I was very weak kid. I didn't have very good health when I was little. I get sick very, very, very often. So before I started Kung Fu, that was before I started Kung Fu. I still remember my mom usually carry me walk like a couple of miles away to the town, the little big town, to see a doctor. And I would get shot a lot. So I was a very sick kid. And then I was okay, not the top kids in my village. So I was in the medium like kids. I think it's all about the opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity could change your entire life. So when you make a decision, go this way and this way, you can completely have a different future. So when the time comes, I just, excited. I want to go to Shaolin Temple. I was very, fascinated about the Shaolin Temple movie by Jet Li, and my father asked me,
That was a big moment, right? When Jet Li came out with the Shaolin Temple movie, there was like an explosion, right?
It is.
It was an explosion,
like huge, and I think it influenced so many kids from all over China to learn kung fu at the Shaolin Temple.
Not just kids in China. I was a kid in America when Shaolin Temple came out. I still remember, I have a vivid experience watching it. I was like, oh my god!
Yes.
And in Shifu, I've had so many similar experiences with so many people around the world, Americans, French, German, that they all have had a similar experience watching a version of Shaolin through entertainment and storytelling, where they become.
Yes.
The same thing happened to you, but you were lucky enough to be taken to the Shaolin Temple. To the real Shaolin Temple.
Yes, that's true. That's just the opportunity, the time that you take on something that and then you can just go on. If you miss the time opportunity, if I say, oh, I don't want to go, I want to stay, I probably never gonna get out the China or in the US, or we are facing each other, talking to each other. So it's completely a different life. So that's why I said yes, and then I went to Shaolin Temple, and then since then, I changed my life. So, but we didn't really thought about it or make a plan. Say, okay, let's go for 3 years or 5 years, and then come back home. Now we just went. So that's what I said earlier. My parents were helping me to just go, moving on. Let's go.
Was it sad? Was it scary? How old were you when you went to the temple?
Almost 10. Yeah.
Almost 10. So a very young kid. Were you scared?
Yeah, no, I was more excited. I'm more excited. Yes, it was so like finally because Shaolin Temple in my mind was like very mystery, special place. So I was always curious what do the temple looks like behind the big gate. From the Shaolin Temple movie, I was watching the big gate. They were filming fighting in front of the temple gate. I was thinking about what does the temple look like behind the gate. I was just so much curiosity about the Shaolin Temple, the real temple, living inside. And then I just went and then just lived there for more like about 12 years, and I grew up at the temple. And actually, I had a few times almost like want to go back home, because as a young kid, you left your parents, and the temple life was very challenging. The schedule, the training, 6 hours a day. Back time when we go to the temple, live there, we didn't really have a very good a living condition as good as nowadays, and also temple actually need more younger kids to go inside to train, to grow up, to passing down our tradition, our arts, and then practice, and not just kung fu, meditation, the whole culture of Shaolin. And so it was easy to go in back that time.
Let's just share, if you could share a little bit, other than the martial arts, which is what everybody thinks about. When people think Shaolin, they think Kung Fu, they think about Kung Fu. But what are the other parts of Shaolin that you think are often ignored or misunderstood?
I would say if people when they think about Shaolin, it's Kung Fu, they only know outside of Shaolin. Maybe they just see Shaolin through the window. They don't know what's just kind of like I shared what I was curious about the behind. What does Shaolin Temple feel like behind the gate? Just what
it is behind the gates.
Yeah, so Kung Fu is just a door,
right?
Just a door for people. Open the door through Kung Fu, performing or teaching or training through the Kung Fu is the entrance to the Shaolin Temple, which a lot of people stay on that level of the entrance at the Shaolin Kung Fu practice. So I'm hoping that people can understand more or see more about what's behind the Shaolin Kung Fu. The Shaolin, it's not a martial arts. For me, the Shaolin practice is the arts. It's not about the martial arts. It's like not like the other martial arts. You just stay on a physical level forever. Yes, that's one part. Shaolin has many parts of practices together, and many pieces put the whole Shaolin culture together. The Shaolin is the one entryway, the one convenient way, I would say, to invite people come in to the Shaolin practice, to the Shaolin Kung Fu. And you once you learning the Kung Fu, and then you start see, oh, through Kung Fu, there's meditation, or there's internal practice, Qigong, or there's tea practice, and also there's spiritual practice behind. There's like a rich culture behind the Shaolin Kung Fu. There's so much more you can learn behind the Shaolin Kung Fu gate. I would say the message I wanted to send out to the Shaolin practice is I totally agree that you were talking about nowadays we are facing too much screen time, too much technology, on phone, computer, TV. We don't even have time to sit down face to face, look at each other's eyes to have a conversation. And
we're not even sitting together right now. So,
no, but
right?
it's okay. But we're using the technology to
Yes.
spread out, and this is good way. And, but I feel like nowadays it's more than ever we need to share the Shaolin tradition, the Shaolin practice.
So
We
we're
need
backwards.
connect to ourselves, to Shaolin practice, connect to each other, to our friends, besides the technology part.
Yes.
And now we can use the Shaolin practice as a path, spiritual path, to from entering level, which is Kung Fu, to the spiritual level. That's the power of the Shaolin.
When did that happen for you? When did you start feeling like you started practicing Kung Fu, you went in the temple? Like, when did you feel like you really started to be transformed by this practice, these lifestyles, these ideas and philosophies?
When I was little, I didn't even, I couldn't remember like exactly the time how I transformed from Kung Fu to philosophy or spiritual practice. I feel like it's like gradually, slowly move on, because there's nothing that you can suddenly from one thing jump to the other thing. So there must be a long term as a practice, and then you are always on the path. Slowly, there's a transition, and then you move on to next. So and then when I was little, I'm always fascinated and interested about the philosophy. I'm not good at the math, but I was very interested in learning the philosophy, Shaolin history, and the meditation, the tea, and the spiritual thing. And when I was little, I was just very interested about that. And then I believe with time, I grew up at the Shaolin temple. You live in the environment, with brothers and masters, and talking and practicing, and you're hearing, you're seeing everything we do together. With time, I think I probably like after like around 10, after the teenager time, after like 14, 15, and you slowly feel like, oh, you're looking different way now. You understand the movement more than when you were like 12 or 10, something like that. So I think it just with time, slowly transfer to the spiritual way from Kung Fu way.
So I think this is now a really good moment to ask the provocative question we started with. How can Shaolin save the world?
And when you send me the message when I first time saw this title, I said, wow, this is so powerful title. And I really feel this is the right title that we wanted to send out the message to people. And I feel Shaolin by itself, the name of the Shaolin or the temple, the Shaolin temple cannot save the world. I believe it's the Shaolin teaching. Through each one of us, we practice Shaolin meditation, Kung Fu, Qigong, and the culture, the history, philosophy, or tea, everything that each one of us, through our practice, we share and spread out the Shaolin practice and Shaolin teaching to our friends, to the community, then we can change the world together. That's the teaching with the Shaolin can save the world. It's the peace, it's the compassion, it's the kindness from the Shaolin teaching.
What do you think the world needs more than anything at this present moment that Shaolin is uniquely able to provide or to share or to teach?
I would say silence. Silence is the highest understanding of Zen. It is heart-to-heart teaching, but at the same time, we need to spread out our teaching through the world, to conversation, to talk. So I think that the world needs more. It's the peace. I would say the big direction. Okay, big way. I think the world need more the kindness.
Yes.
And the compassion, the loving
Peace.
To
quietness, right?
To each other. And I think that's how people think, okay, there's something happen, they like or don't like, they think that's not their business. I believe everyone connect together, especially your close people, your close friends, your family, your community that you're in. Each one of us is a very important part of the community. The word you say, the way you act, the way you say, you talk, it's naturally influencing to other people. You know, people think, if I say this, it's okay because it's not business. If I don't do this, it's okay. But it's not okay. You're part of it. Always put ourselves first before others. So I think to the Shaolin, I'm hoping that people can take a little bit of time and patience, dive into more to the Shaolin practice. Open the gate, take a little bit of time to see what's behind the gate, what's behind the Shaolin Kung Fu, because the meditation is the foundation of the Shaolin Kung Fu.
Yes.
And the Shaolin is not the way to fight. It's the Shaolin Kung Fu, the Shaolin martial arts is not to teach us how to fight people, how to make a problem, how to make troubles. It's the way of life. I feel like it's like we take a trail. It's the trail that will lead us from emptiness, from fullness to emptiness. And then.
But why would, for a Western mind, that's kind of informed by materialism and capitalism. Why would you want to go from fullness to emptiness?
From emptiness to fullness first, and then eventually back to emptiness.
Right.
Yes.
You're talking. It's about. This is more of a profound understanding, because in a way, emptiness is something to be experienced.
Yes. I was trying to say actually from emptiness first, because we're all empty. Started with a beginning level. It's like a completely new person, and we learn everything with an empty mind, to have many possibility for what do we practice, what do we learn. And there's no such, ego or judgment in what are we doing.
So I want to just take a moment, Yan Tuo, and welcome all the various people who are joining our live stream today with Master Yan Tuo of the Shaolin Temple. Our provocative conversations about how can Shaolin save the world. We've been hearing a lot about Yan Tuo's background, coming from Chaozhou, China, which again is interesting for us at Immortal Studios because he actually has lived a life very similar to Master Fa Sheng, our dream master, and kind of the master wrangler of the interconnected Immortal Storyverse world. We've also established that Yan Tuo was attracted first to the Shaolin Temple when he saw the movie The Shaolin Temple, which kind of brought notoriety and renewed energy to the whole world through the Shaolin Temple. I think Shaolin Temple, starring Jet Li, was the vehicle by which many people on the Eastern Front got to know the Shaolin Temple. Something was happening on the West. A television show in the 1970s called Kung Fu with David Carradine that Bruce Lee actually played a role in. He was considered the leading star. That created a whole new frenzy of Shaolin in the West. So we're seeing East and West actually really brought a lot of awareness, a lot of attention to Shaolin, which has been around for 1,500 years. In this provocative question, Yan Tuo really drilled down on one big thing, and I really loved the way he said it. It was silence, going inward, right? The peace, the compassion, a lot of these intangibles, as opposed to give me money or I want this, I want my will to be manifested. I want these things to happen out there, but before anything happens out there, it has to be real in here. So it's this call inward. And Yan Tuo, I think I had an opportunity to sit with my good friend and your master, Shi Yongxing, whom I've known for many years. And his number one was the foundation of all Kung Fu is meditation. In fact, the word Kung Fu, as is used in inside the Shaolin Temple, means meditation. So thank you for bringing that truth to us. I think the first thing that we want to share for people who are looking for answers on how to save the world, I think the first one is a little bit maybe disappointing for people who want something big, theology, big, difficult or complex mental concept, but it's like a simple practice of being able to quiet down and go inside. And
we need
right, because stillness is way harder than movement.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Just like a child.
Mm-hmm.
You tell a child like maybe 5, 6 years old to sit for 5 minutes. It's going to be very difficult for the child to do it. But if you tell the child to go to the playground for an hour, the child will be really, really happy. You'll stop maybe more than an hour to play.
Yeah.
The child sometimes is just like our mind.
Yeah.
So nowadays, go ahead.
No, I'm just kind of jumping on because I think this is an exciting topic. I just want to boil this one simple, profound truth for people who came here looking for answers. That the first thing is a simple thing, but it's a hard thing.
Sometimes when we're looking for things, we're looking for our answers, we're always looking outside, think about outside, where we can find an answer. But all the time, answers are already within. We just don't have the opportunity to sit down, to be quiet, and close your eyes, breathe, and then listen the voice inside your heart, or the answer that's already within. When you calm down, when you be peace, the whole world is quiet. And that's the moment you can find your answer inside. So
being able to bring us down to center, quietness, reflection.
That's what the world needs right now. Silence.
Imagine if the world leaders
from each one of us do the Shaolin practice. It's not about, I would say, before a lot of people have seen all Shaolin Kung Fu performs and show and movements. And I think the show now it's over. I think it's time to move on to do some conversation, to do some talk, to share about the spiritual practice of Shaolin, and to have a cup of tea, to sit down in silence for maybe 20, 30 minutes. I think this is the time for us to do more of this practice, these teachings. And also, like you said, some people may be disappointed because they were waiting to listen some explanation and answers from me. I mean, I would say maybe you can go home, or if you are home after the live stream, sit down, close your eyes, breathe, and you can find the answer you were looking for or wanted to hear. Here, you probably can find it inside yourself. And also, I would say, as the Shaolin is a spiritual path, I think we wanted to
be a monk. Do you have to be Buddhist, or do you have to be a monk in order to follow the Shaolin way?
The Shaolin Kung Fu, that's Kung Fu. That's why I would say it's a very convenient way for open to all levels, to all religions, all background, culture, everything. People say, okay, I'm different religion. I don't want to do meditation. I don't pray. I don't want to do this. That's okay. You can do Kung Fu. That's, convenient way to for you to start doing that. I understand.
For a lot of people who can't stand still, who have a hard time so they report feeling calm and meeting the meditative state through movement. But the point is still that they're experiencing the peace.
That's the highest level of 禅武合一
Yeah.
and Kung Fu are one. The true peace, the true stillness is in the center of the movement and the stillness.
Is that even possible, Yan Tuo?
It's possible.
Is that realm, is that 境界 really possible for?
It's possible
for regular people?
Yes, possible. It's possible for everyone, every level, every person in the world. You have to make a commitment. You have to continue practice. It's the price of time, craving, determination, or hard work. If you don't continue practice, follow the path, there's nothing possible for you. You can't come have a cup of tea and then you understand the whole culture or knowledge of the tea. You can't just sit there for 5 minutes. You tell people, I understand Zen, and you know anything about Zen, right?
Well,
So
I think we see that in America and the West quite a bit. We have, in my humble opinion, too many masters today. Where you can go on a weekend retreat, read a few books, get a certificate, and in 6 months you're now dressed like a monk. You are going and you are.
Right. So that's one thing.
You are teaching. Right?
I understand what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
In the community, there's so many different style teachers and masters, and but we can control other people what other people do. All right. So I'm hoping they can share the good practice to people. All right. To bring good benefits to others. But what I can say is, hopefully you can take a little bit of time, find a very good teacher to follow with, if you're not following a good teacher, you can, stop and then switch and search and find a different teacher. But I would say there's so many ways you can continue practice on your own. And eventually we want to be our own master. To master yourself is one of the goals from Shaolin practice.
I want to kind of just offer some reflection on your shares today. Again, for the listeners and the watchers, that what I heard a lot first was that you kind of have to deal with yourself, right? We gotta slow down. We got to be still. We have to cultivate this practice. We're also dealing with our own issues in this process, right? We're becoming more grounded. And the practice of Kung Fu and other things are adding disciplines. And when you've achieved this level of self-mastery, you also talked a lot about your community, which I really appreciated. That we exist not only for ourselves, right? Part of changing the world is that we have to change beginning with ourselves, not just up here, but our entire vibration has to change in a real way, not just in our head, not some fictional thing. And this requires commitment. This requires practice. This requires real instruction. You can get it from different places. And as we're doing this, we're actually changing and showing up in a different way in our own communities, in our families, in our places of work, maybe in our love lives, in relation to children and everybody else. So we're kind of elevating the community together.
Beautiful.
This is kind of how the mechanics and dynamics of change happen. It doesn't happen from a savior comes and saves everybody else, right? It comes from self-mastery.
Yes.
right? And it's possible for everybody,
Yes.
right? I think you're living proof. I'm living proof. I haven't shared here. I also consider myself a friend of the Shaolin Temple and a practitioner of the Shaolin arts for a few decades now. So I can honestly say that everything that you have shared and experienced today has been the experience of my own life. That it does work. It does turn your lives around. It does give you new hope. It does give you strength. It does give you peace. It also creates magical things that happen.
That's true. It's very beautiful, the reflection that you share to everybody.
It's reflecting our conversation.
Yes, it's everything started from inside. So people, I'm hoping that whatever you are right now, in this moment, either beginner or in the medium or advanced, always look inside yourself. Always to watch yourself as a competitor, opponent. To watch yourself, watch the like in Shaolin, in Buddhism, one of the instance of a practice in Buddhism is cultivation of mindfulness. So
can you say it one more time?
One of the instance of Buddhism is cultivation of mindfulness.
Mindfulness, right?
Mindfulness, like we do qigong, slow movement, deep breathing. We focus on every single details and the hands, the foot, and the body, breath, everything. So when we focus or put all the energy, gathering all the spirit energy to one point, that's the time we created the mindfulness. We have totally engaged with
mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
United.
Yes. That's how we become one with our activity. It doesn't have to be Shaolin Kung Fu. It could be you cleaning the house. Could be you washing the dishes. Could be you talking with your.
I know you're also a tea master. I guess this is what you experience in your tea ceremonies as well.
I wouldn't say I'm tea master. I just wanted to share a cup of tea with others who enjoy drinking tea. So
like a true tea master.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so that's so many powerful way to share, because I feel we need to jump outside the teaching, the movement. I want to let people understand what we are doing. They understand, and then also they can do and practice with me or with us together. If we always like before we're performing on the stage or something, we do very good. People say, "Oh, the Shaolin monks very good, fast and strong," and then they forget because they don't practice, and they think, "I don't think I can do like them. They are too good." I don't want people make that way. We want people like come to practice us, like the way they think. Oh, I can do meditation. I can say that I can start practice this. I can do qigong. I can drink a cup of tea. Oh, I can focus to use the Shaolin practice to find my inner self, to change the way I live, change the way I talk, change the way I act. And then slowly I can build an inner peace through the Shaolin practice. This is what I wanted to do right now. This is what I'm focused on doing right now.
How do you teach that? How do you teach that, and how do you share that? Is it through
many ways, through in person, online seminars, and I'm teaching local Washington too, Seattle, and I teach online classes. And if people are far away, so we do online classes. Also, I'm travel to do seminars in different states. So that's what I'm teaching through 3 different ways.
So from what I can hear, you are saying that it's time now for Shaolin to take its message outside of Kung Fu studios and to be in very different other formats, to broadly share outside the confines of Kung Fu.
I would say outside of the physical movement. Right. You can have a studio there, You can teach in Kung Fu physical for the people who just new to join this Shaolin practice. They start with Shaolin Kung Fu, or they start with Qigong, or start with meditation. So you have many options for them to join the Shaolin practice, start Shaolin practice. If you only have a Shaolin Kung Fu, many people don't have the abilities or the interest, and they will never have a chance to start. So I would say give more options, bring our real culture, the real teaching behind physical movement for people come to learn the real arts of Shaolin. That's very good a way to change people's life.
And I have to say, and I have to really commend your master, Abbot Shi Yongxing, and all your first generation of Shaolin monks, such as yourself, who've left your native of China, who've come to a foreign country, who've kind of created communities and sharing this new message of engagement, of peace, of empowerment, and embodiment. So I really want to acknowledge you for your contributions to Western culture by bringing this essence. I've gotten a lot out of it, and this has been a really just really interesting conversation. I know there are a lot of martial artists listening. I'm just kind of looking at the comments. A lot of people are firing it up. I think another simple thing, to build on silence and peace is, if you are a Kung Fu practitioner now, if you are a Shifu, you're teaching, just a gentle nudge and a reminder to make your meditation practice as part of the foundational parts of it. This is the essence of Shaolin Kung Fu. So if you're not doing that, if you're not putting your emphasis there, this is just a gentle reminder for all of us, to bring more of that peace into our practice, because this is the basis of how Shaolin will change the world. We have a lot of people online right now, and I know we've been doing a lot of talking. I would love to get some Q&A from our audience.
If I would say, if everybody start doing spiritual practice, and everybody build the inner peace, love, compassion from Shaolin practice, either Kung Fu, meditation, Qi, or Qigong, and the whole world, it's full of the love, compassion, and peace. That's from each one of us. That's what the world needs right now from Shaolin practice. That's the message I wanted to send out to people. If you ask me about when I was younger, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you ask me what's the highest skill of Shaolin Kung Fu, I would say maybe the movement you've been practicing for hundreds times. That's the highest skill of Shaolin Kung Fu. One strike, one opponent.
Yeah.
But now you ask me this moment, what's the highest skill of Shaolin Kung Fu? I would say close your eyes, cross your leg, breathe, meditate. That's the highest skill of Shaolin Kung Fu. That's the foundation, that's the root. So we'll go back to the root of the Shaolin Kung Fu. That's the highest of the skill.
You said it. I think we're breaking. I'm known as the Ancient Futurist on Instagram, Ancient Futurist, and you just said something that was very Ancient Futurist, which is the past wisdoms, the timeless wisdoms now, and the future merging, coming into the presence. Right. So I think. Just really, really love this conversation and this message. And I can tell that by looking at the comments of people, there's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of buy-in. There's also a few comments that German Garcia, I know another amazing Shaolin brother, he says that we also need more Kung Fu schools. We need more schools that kind of share this knowledge. And another really interesting thing is actually happening in America, and I imagine all over the world, that is, as organized religions have faded, especially for people who are 40 years and younger, church attendance, organized religion is fading. We know that there's a lot of political challenges and turmoil. So political leaders are no longer holding that voice. Capitalism and corporations, businesses are also going through a kind of a challenging period because they don't necessarily always stand on the side of the consumer. Mm-hmm. So there's a vapidness, there's an openness on where does the next generation go for proper information, knowledge, and teaching. And one of the things I really value about the Chan or Zen practice, in as much as it's known as Buddhism, it is also not that religious, right? It's really more of a spiritual practice.
Yes. So any religion background, they can practice meditation.
Sorry about that. I accidentally just dropped off for a second.
I thought we're over, just like without saying bye, and then you left.
Oh, no, I was just experiencing some emptiness together.
All right.
Josh, do we have any questions from the audience? You're on mute, Josh.
Oh, excuse me. Something I resonated with a little earlier is from Edward. I find myself asking how and where I can get peace. He had mentioned that during the opening comments, and that brings a lot of things to my mind, such as how can we quiet down such a busy world? And if we can accomplish that, how can we quiet down our busy minds? I find a lot of people that I tell, like, hey, I'm trying to meditate, and they're just like, oh, that's not for me. I can't get the thoughts going. Is there anything that you would recommend for people who are just predisposed to say, like, oh, that's not for me, I'm too stressed to quiet it down? It's like they can't imagine a world without the thoughts or the voice. Have you ever heard that before?
I have. For this type of a question, I would say they didn't try the best. They didn't try enough to give them enough space and a quiet time to sit down. So I would say to sit down, you need to, convince yourself or inner self to give yourself the space, creating the space and the time, even though just 5 or 10 minutes. The willingness to sit down, that's a big part of it. The first step you don't take, and then you cannot to take more steps after that. You cannot quiet your mind. You can't relieve your stress. If the first step, you can't even commit to take the first step to sit down, to tell yourself, make it some space and time, even 5 or 10 minutes. And then there's even harder to relieve your stress. So I would say give some advices for myself. It's give like maybe 10 minutes, do nothing. Right, just find out like maybe your room and with a quiet environment, and just sit down, cross the leg, close your eyes, and just breathe and concentrate on your breathing. From counting your breath, it's one of basic and also powerful meditation practices. Counting your breath, slow and peaceful and deep. And from 1 to 2 or 1 to 10, and you repeat until you finish your 5 or 10 minutes meditation. Let's try that way. And with time of practice, slowly you are building up the habits of sitting down, meditate 5 minutes and 10 minutes. And then with time of practice, and it becomes natural with you. It becomes automatic.
Josh, I want to lean in that question a little bit. As you know, I recently did a video called the 3 major contributions of Shaolin, why Shaolin would save the world, so to speak. And one of them was the concept of no hacks, which is not looking a quick fix to anything. I think needing a quick fix is almost one of the modern diseases of the mind. We're born on hacks. We're trained on popping pills, everything you pop a pill for. If you have this pain, forget where it comes from or why it's painful. Take a pill and it goes away. So I think over time, modern people have been trained to expect the impossible just like that. And the things they get from pharmaceuticals don't really solve the problem. They just numb themselves. If you're stressed, take a drink, smoke some weed or eat some food or do whatever. But so I think part of it is just it's an open conversation with people and saying, hey, this is going to be uncomfortable a little bit. Get yourself ready to be uncomfortable. Even when you practice Kung Fu, it's going to be uncomfortable if you haven't done it before.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think part of it is feeling and accepting discomfort. Whether you can embrace it or not, but you could just get used to. I love this Chinese term, by the way. It's called 吃苦, to eat bitterness.
Yeah.
Your ability to succeed and excel in life is directly proportional to your ability to eat bitterness. So a little bit of these classic Chinese knowledge. So pain, as long as it's not sharp pain from broken bones or things, so discomfort is actually good for you. And as a I've been a meditator now, I would say for, going on 26 years. The worst meditations are the best in a way, because the worst meditations means that I really needed it. So this is one. So just, I think, a little bit of sense of humor and the ability to accept discomfort, knowing that that precedes growth. Or when you're experiencing discomfort consciously, you are growing.
Nice.
I don't know if you agree with that perspective, Yan Tuo.
Yes, I agree. Yes. That's good.
Yes. Well, we are down to the wire, and it's now 5:57. Master Yan Tuo, do you have any? I know this is just a beginning of our conversations. I want to thank you for taking the time today to connect with us on such a profound question as like how Shaolin can save the world. And I want to thank you for bringing all that timeless wisdom to this audience here today. So we want to, how can people get in contact with you if they want to?
They can contact me through my Instagram. I have my phone number, and they can direct message me on Instagram. They can, reach out to my cell phone. My phone number is on the Instagram. My page is personal page. Yeah.
We're not going to ask people to call you on your cell phones just yet, but finding you on social media is a great place. Really, really grateful for you and the time that you shared your wisdom. And I want to say to the rest of the Immortal community today, it's been an honor to share this very special session with you. I would like to take this opportunity just to gently remind you that we do have a Shaolin master in the Immortal Storyverse with a background very similar to Master Yan Tuo here. They both come from the Chaozhou part of China. For those of you who are fans of the Adept, frankly, all of our stories, our dream master is a Shaolin master, Master Fa Sheng. In fact, the story of how he leaves Chaozhou, China during the Boxer Uprising and arrives in the doorstep of the Shaolin Temple, that story is alive on Kickstarter right now. We're just $2,500 from meeting our goal. And if this story here has been provocative and profound, we want to invite you just to give a look at this story. We have a Kickstarter live right now. You can find the link that's associated with this video footage. We want to just go and take a look. And part of the Shaolin magic we've talked about is how Shaolin travels through popular culture. Master Yan Tuo was excited. He learned about the Shaolin Temple through the Jet Li movie. Interestingly enough, many kids here on the in the West maybe watched it as David Carradine in Kung Fu, or you're a big fan of The Last Airbender, Avatar, The Last Airbender, which was inspired by Shaolin philosophy. However you found it, pop culture is such a big part of it, the storytelling. And one of the missions at Immortal that we're actively working on is really bringing that spiritual, martial, historical, cultural authenticity. Shaolin is so much more than chop sake or fighting or ass kicking, all of those things. Although those things also happen, make no mistake about it. But the people on the receiving end of it, you can be sure that they deserved it on some level. So we are part of this tradition of using and partnering with global pop culture to be this wave. And personally and professionally, we believe, yes, Shaolin ideas, philosophies, practice can change the world. In fact, it is the only thing, whether it's Shaolin or another form of spiritual practice and cultivation and embodiment. This is what is going to change the world by the evolution of our consciousness. And this is one of the operating axioms of Immortal. So if this idea and these practices resonate with you, I want to invite you to be part of this movement, beginning with this campaign that's live right now. It ends on the morning of July 4th. So if you're catching this before 4th of July, we want to partner with you. Come and take a look at the book, just checking out the page and seeing the artwork and getting a little bit of the story of Fa Sheng. I've taken a lot of your time. Again, I want to bring my attention back to my good friend Yan Tuo, who has a very special message. He's a very, very special master, a learned martial Zen gentleman who now is in Seattle. Master Yan Tuo, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us today for this very, very special conversation. Just a reminder, we can all start from where we are today. Just a little bit of silence, a little bit of breath, a little bit of taking that energy inward is the beginning of the kind of transformations we all want. And it begins with ourselves, and it goes to our families, and it goes to our communities. This is how the world becomes changed. Thank you for your time today. I want to bid you peace out.
Thank you. Can we send one more message before we finish?
Please.
So to all the friends, if you're practicing Shaolin Kung Fu or any other martial arts and other spiritual practice, okay, so we always need to find a little bit quiet time before we start. So in Shaolin Kung Fu, we also Zhan Zhuang, which is standing meditation. We're loading our qi internally and a quiet mind. And so we need maybe a little bit time to quiet your mind and body before we start. And then when we finish the training, how long your training will take, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and then I will suggest finish with your meditation, like maybe 10 minutes meditation, and then back to natural, let your body and blood calm down when you finish the training. It's very good. So we start from emptiness to the fullness, and then back to emptiness.
I would love to practice that with you soon. Yan Tuo, I know you're in the middle of summer break with your two beautiful kids.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time out of summer camp. And this is just another example.
Thank you for having me again. I'm grateful to be here. Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Peace out.